Okay, class, welcome everybody. Welcome to lesson 16, which is understanding and cooking fish and shellfish. As I told you, each lesson is going to be divided in two sections, part A and part B. Alright, so we're going to start with part A, which is understanding. We're going to learn the fish and the shellfish compositions and their farms and everything. And in section B, we're going to be learning how to cook properly, cook fish and shellfish. So what are we going to be all right, so what we're going to be covering over here in this first lesson. So after reading this chapter, or after finishing this chapter, you should be able to explain how the cooking qualities of fish are affected by its lack of connectivity tissues. I remember we discussed about connectivity tissue 2 lessons ago, right? And the past lessons when we discussed connectivity tissues are special protein. Second, determine doneness in fish, in cooked fish. How you can say when it is cooked. Demonstrate the appropriate cooking method of fat and lean fish. There are two types of fish, which is known as the white fish and the blue fish. The white fish are the ones that have the fat in their liver, and the blue fish are the ones that have the fat in their flesh. An example of those are blue fish are salmon and tuna. An example of the lean fish are fish like snapper. They are very good example of those. And remember that the fish, the oil fish, or the fat, the lipids that are found in fish are known as omega, and they're very good. They're very healthy. So we're going to be learning how to properly cook those type of fish. List 7 basic market forms of fish. So we're going to be saying how they are sold. We're not going to get too much into this because in Belize we only have a few of them. We don't really have the 7 basic firms. But I put over there the 7 basic market firms. So that is the international. But here in Belize, we don't really have that too much. So we're going to be focusing only the local ones. List and describe common varieties of saltwater and fresh fish fin fishery used in food service. Saltwater fish, they are the one that usually get from market, right? The ones like, for example, the snapper, grouper, and so on. And the freshwater, like the one we have in school, like tilapias. See, there are examples. So we're going to be looking or learning some fin fish that are used in food service. Identify the characteristic of fresh fish and contrast them with characteristic of non-soft fresh fish. That is very important. Starfish and fish products. Understand the popular varieties of shellfish and discuss their characteristics. Outline the special safe handling and cooking procedure for shellfish. This is very important. This is shellfish, very important. For example, if you have, let's say you have a shrimp, which is like, what, maybe like 3 inches or 2.5 inches, and you want to cook them, and you come, for example, let's say you want to do a Caribbean coconut shrimp, and you come and you put the shrimp to boil, and then you take it out and then you put it in your curry sauce or your curry gravy, and you cook it with that. You're going to be having a fish like maybe like 1/2 inch that's going to be tasting like rubber. So that's very important. So this is going to be what you're going to be learning in this first section, part A. All right, so here, what are fin fish? For those who are wondering what are the fin fish. All right, so the first topic over there in fin fish are going to be the composition and the structure. The edible fish, the edible flesh or fish, like that of meat and poultry, consists of water, protein, fat, and small amount of mineral, vitamins, and other substances. The difference, however, are perhaps more important than the similarities. So, doesn't matter what type of flesh you're going to be eating, everything consists of water, protein, fats, and a small amount of minerals and vitamins. Remember we covered that the past two subjects, right? When we were discussing about meat and poultry. So fish has very little connectivity tissue. This is one of the most important difference between fish and meat. It means that fish can get cooked very quickly at even low heat, just enough to heat to coagulate the protein. So whenever you eat a fish, that's why you can feel it tender. The fish is very tender because it don't have any connectivity tissue. And remember I told you that connectivity tissue is a special type of protein. So fish is naturally tender. I just mentioned that right now. The result is because it doesn't contain any connectivity tissue. But number 3, moist heat cook method are used not to create tenderness but to preserve moisture and provide variety. So the moist is the most common one used in fish. Cooked fish must be handled very carefully or it will fall apart. As an example, when you overcook a fish, for example, if you're going to do a fish fillet and you want to do it grilled, if you overcook it at the time you want to take it off the grill, believe me, everything is going to be like sprinkles. Everything is going to be all messed up. So you have to be very careful whenever you are dealing with cooked fish. You need to know the correct temperature and especially the timing. So over here we have a picture of a fish. You can see it over here. We have a picture of a fish over here. You can see it over here. And the different part, you have the tail, the anal fins, and everything over here. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Special problem when cooking fish. What are the problems in cooking fish? Doneness and flaking. And I just mentioned this right now. When fish is cooked, the flesh breaks apart into natural separation. This is called flaking. So whenever you cook a fish, by nature, sorry, is going to be breaking apart. But if it is overcooked, it is going to be a whole mess. Believe me, that is going to be a whole mess. So the note over here says that most books, when I talk about books, I'm talking about cooking books, somewhat misleading, say that fish is done when it flakes easily. But unfortunately, some cooks understand this as nearly falling apart. So important, whenever you're going to cook a fish, remember that fish is going to absorb heat, right? Everything that you cook is absorption. I'm going to absorb the heat. So even though you remove the fish from the grill or from the pot or whatsoever you're doing any cooking method, the fish is going to continue to cook because it got heat on it. So over here, because fish continue to cook, it is retained heat whenever removed from the fire. So it is often dreadfully overcooked by the time it reaches to the customer. So fish is very delicate and it is easy to overcook. So you really need to have a specific temperature and a specific time. But especially you need a timing when it comes to cooking fish. So this is very important. This part is very, very important. And over here we have a display of a picture. You can see it over here. This is a very delicious. It look very nice. You can see a grilled fish over here with some veggies over here. Got asparagus, and I believe the bottom one something like a bisque or something like that. Look like a. So observe the taste of doneness. The fish just separate into flakes. That is, it begins to flake but doesn't yet fall easily. So when the fish, remember I told you, whenever you cook a fish, it have to be separated into flakes but not to break. Remember I told you that the fish is still preserve the heat and it continues to cook even though you remove it from the fire or from the stove or pot or whatsoever you're using to cook. If the bone is present, the flesh separates from the bone and the bone is no longer pink. The bone is not going to be looking pink. The flesh has turned from translucent to opaque, usually white depending on the kind of fish. Remember that majority flaws in fish separate is overcooking. So over here we have our next picture. As you can see over here, you can see the fish is cooked, perfectly cooked, and you can see over here it holds everything together. You can see it over here is cooked and it is not overcooked. So that's why you can be able to plate. You can be able to plate your. So cooking fat fish and lean fish. The fat content from the fishery range from 0.5% to 20%. Lean fish are those that are low in fat. An example are sole, cod, red snapper, bass, perch, halibut, pike. And the fat fish are those that are high in fat. Example salmon, tuna, trout, butterfish, mackerel, and even sardines. Believe me, sardines are very high in fat and they're very helpful. Are very helpful. So those are the type of fish. So the two type of fish are lean and fat fish. So over here, so this is the cooking in fat and different type of fish. So the lean fish, you can see over here. If I have a picture, this is a snapper. You can see it over here. This is a red snapper. I decided to use this because it's most commonly known here in Belize. Snapper is very common here in Belize. And the next one over here, you have some picture. You have salmon, tuna, trout, mackerel, and over here you see I have sardines, anchovies. Anchovies are very common or very known when it comes to do the Caesar salad dressing. They use this type of fish. Give a very nice taste to that. So over here see sardines. They are very fat fish. So whenever you want to eat fish and you want to eat something healthy and you don't have the source way to get the fish, you can always use sardines. Sardines over here are the sardines you see are the fat. They contain a lot of fat. And remember, whenever you have high cholesterol, triglycerides, stuff like that, usually they tell you to eat a lot of omega-3, and omega-3 comes from the fish lipids or fish oil. And sardines, you see it over here, they contain a lot of that type of lipids. So if you have high cholesterol, it's very recommended for you to eat sardines. Going to help you to bring down the cholesterol because the fat from the fish help to lower your cholesterol and triglycerides. All right, so cooking fat fish. Yeah, very good. This is a very interesting part. The fish in this, the fat in this fish enables them to tolerate more heat without becoming dry. Moist heat method. So again, with the moist heat method, it consists of water, liquid. Any type of liquid. It can be water, it can be any stock or something. Fat fish, like lean fish, can be cooked by moist heat. Poached salmon, sorry, and trout are very popular. So first you can do it. They can poach a salmon or tuna. Now, when it comes to dry heat method, fat fish are well suited to broil and bake. So for example, let's say you're going to be doing a salmon, you can just sear it in the side and you can just put it in the oven, or in what we know as salamandra. So no kitchen equipment, you can just put it over there to get broiled. So of course it's not going to be dry, but also remember, fish are easily to get overcooked, so you really need to know what you are doing. Remember, you need to know and not guess. You need to know what you're doing, not guess what you are doing. So the dry heat helps eliminate excessive oiliness, and that's going to help to eliminate extra fat. And the dry heat method with fat, large fish like salmon and strong flavor fish like bluefish and mackerel may be cooked in fat, but care should be taken to avoid excessive greasing. Small ones like trout are often pan fried. Drain the fish well before serving. That is very important, especially if you work in a restaurant. Imagine you're going to if you fried Let's say they give you a piece of, they want a salmon or any other, or like a mackerel. They say they want fried mackerel, and you come and you fry it, and drain it good after you fry it. And how you drain it, very easy. You can just put paper towel, or a lot of restaurants, they usually have what is known as brown paper. Right? A lot of people see those already know that brown paper, and they have the any any bowl. They have a bowl or plate, and they just put it over there and just put it in the top of that, so that the brown paper or paper towel absorb that fat. So imagine if you don't do that, and you're going to be serving, let's say you're going to be serving like satay veggies with a coconut rice, and you're going to be topping that with the fish, and when you put it over there, all the fat from that side just to drain over your rice, of course. And I'm pretty sure you will not be you don't want to serve that, or you wanted to eat it as well. So you have to be very, very careful whenever you deal with fat fish. You don't want all that fatty, or that fat from the from what you use for frying start to drop in your food. Now, cutting fish, this is one very tricky. So what are the market forms when it comes to cutting fish? Fish are available in several forms, or they may be cut by cook into this form depending on how they are to be cooked. So what are the forms? Over here I have the first one. I believe they call it over here steaks. To this one, fish steak. How I call it too? I call it fish steak. And over here, we see over there, they're filleting a fish over there. A big fish, you can see. So they have this one over here. You can call this the steak, fish steak. One majority of people know it as. And over here, the fish fillet. And over here, have the next one. So remember that the fish are available in several forms, or they may be cut by the cook into this form depending on how they're going to be cooked. So depending on how you're going to be cooking your fish, you're going to be cutting your fish. For example, if you want to do a fish fillet, you're not going to be cutting into steaks, right? Because that's not going to be correct. Or if you want to do a steak, you're not going to fillet your fish. So depending on how you're going to be cooking your fish, that depends how you're going to be cutting it. So buying processed fish versus cutting it yourself. So processed fish, that is very, very, very interesting. I prefer, when it comes to fish, I prefer to cut it myself rather to buy it the processed one. Why? Most food service establishments purchase fish in the farm in which they intend to cook them. They find it less expensive to pay someone to do this cutting than to hire and train the personnel, and to allocate the storage and workspace in to do it in-house. So a lot of restaurants, whenever they buy fish, they say, all right, we want maybe 10 pounds of fish fillet, 5 pounds of fish steak. And the reason why, because over here say that it is more cheaper for them to buy it like that than to hire someone, train that person, pay them a salary, plus find them a location storage, and also find a working place, because you don't want to go and cut fish where you cut steaks or where you cut chicken, right? Poultry. So they find it easier like that and cheaper. And other restaurants still buy whole fish, and here are some reasons why they do it. All right, so restaurants, I personally, as I mentioned to you, I prefer, when it comes to fish, I prefer to buy my whole fish and I cut it my way, because like that I know how big I want to serve the fish. If it is a fish fillet, I know how big I'm going to serve it. Or if I want to do a fish steak, I know how thick I'm going to be doing it. So over here we have for 5 points. You can see over here, say the first point, say their client demand it. So a lot of clientele demand it. Some high-priced luxury restaurants take their reputation on using only the freshness, most unprocessed ingredients. They're able to change enough to cover they're able enough to charge, sorry, enough to cover their high labor cost. So a lot of over here say that a lot of restaurants which are fine dining, they prefer to do that, and of course they're not going to be charging cheap, right? They're going to be charging expensive to cover their labor costs. And remember, as I mentioned at the beginning of this slideshow, that it is expensive to hire someone to train them, find storage, and find workplace to do it in house. So of course, whenever they do one play with that, they're going to be covering that. All right, so the second point says they are located in the heart of a fresh fish market where fresh whole fish delivered daily are economical. They can best take advantage of seasonal bargains, sorry. So a lot of other restaurants, for example, let's say a restaurant in Belize, um, well, I'm not going to call any names on the restaurant, but let's say there is an ex restaurant near the fish market. Of course, I am 100% sure they want to go to the market and buy it fresh daily. So they can take advantage of, and of course, it's going to be very cheaper. It's going to be more cheaper to buy directly from the fisherman that the fisherman come here to Benke or Cayo or Stan Creek or Rosala, any part, and going to be more expensive. So they do it because it's cheaper for them. The third point says they are high volume specialty restaurant that find it more economical to clean the fish themselves and watch the market for the best price every day. So other restaurants they find it cheaper. Number four say they make fish stock and use the bones. So I personally, when I used to work in this restaurant that I was mentioning you before becoming a teacher, we never used to throw nothing away. Of course, only the guts. But when it comes to the bone to the head, if we did fish fillet, I used to save the all the bones and the head and make sauce with that. And of course, from there you can do different sauce. For example, they have the fomet, which is a fish sauce type of fish sauce. And if I do when I used to do the any grilled fish or any type of fish, I just used to serve a little bit of that same sauce, fish sauce in the side. So of course, you can use the fish bone to make stocks or to make soup. For example, I know a lot of I remember many years ago, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, a few years ago, I was coming from with a friend, and he stopped right there in the entrance in San Ignacio, and he told the man, "So you got my thing, you got my head for me?" And I was wondering, and he say, "The fish head." The man was selling fish, so he has for the head. So after we moved, I asked the guy, "Why you want the head for?" And he told, "No, because I make soup with that, and it's very delicious." So even over here, people, when local people in town, people who don't work in restaurant or which only do house cooking, they use the head for soup. I said, "Oh, okay, okay, okay." I said, so I thought they were going to use the head for something else. So this is what they use the bones and the head for. And point number 5 says they serve the whole fish, for example, satay or poach, truth presented the whole cod poach. All right, so I'm not going to read that. So a lot of restaurants, what they do, they sell the whole fish. A restaurant which I know that serve whole fish is this restaurant in Belize City named Calypso, and I know because I used to work there. Time, so they buy fish and they have a standard measurement and standard weight for the whole fish to be served. So many restaurants serve the whole fish. All right, so going to the next slide. Dressing and filleting. So although most of you will work with ready to cook fish products, you should know how to clean and fillet a whole fish. And over here you have a YouTube link, two of them. So going to leave this link for you, of course, make you see the video, two of them. And this video is going to explain how to dress or fillet a fish. So over here, this video is going to show you everything, all the techniques and all the procedures how to properly fillet and dress a fish. So there are two basic type of fish, which are the flatfish and the round fish, and they're fillet differently. They're fillet differently. Flatfish have 4 fillets, round have 2. After a large fish such as salmon is inflated, it may fillet, sorry, it may be necessary for some recipes to cut the fillet into thinner slices or scallops. So salmon, salmon are big, or for example, or now if you're going to be doing tuna, sorry, that's very big, tuna, especially the bluefin tuna, they're very big. So depending on the type of fish, you're going to have different size and different weight when it comes to fillet fish. All right, varieties and characteristics. Characteristics, sorry. Hundreds of varieties of fish are eaten around the world. However, relatively few species account for the majority of the fish used in food service. There is a significant difference in flavor between freshwater fish and saltwater fish, and that is very true. There's a for example, if you go to the river and you go and catch some sardines, and then you go to the sea and catch some sardines, even though both of them are sardines, the flavor is going to be very different. Or if you go to the sea and you get a tilapia, and you go to go to the river, you get a tilapia, and then you go to the sea and you get the next type of fish, the flavor is going to be totally different. Because saltwater fish, as may be expected, have more salt in their flesh. So saltwater fish have more salt in their flesh. Some fish may spend part of their life in the ocean and part in fresh water. Salmon, for example, live in the ocean but migrate up to the river to lay their egg or spawn. Fish that live in salt water but spawn in fresh water are called anadrons. On the other hand, fish that live in fresh water but swim downstream to spawn into ocean are called catadrums. Catadromus, sorry. Eel is a catadrum fish. So, salmon, for example, salmon, they're hatched in fresh water. They go to the sea, and whenever they're ready to reproduce themselves, they go upstream. And I'm pretty sure you see videos of that before, right? So over here you have the life cycle, the anadromes, migrations. So the salmon, you can see over here, the egg, freshwater, they burn, marine over here, and they come, and when they get mature, they come over here, go upstream, and again they go like this. So they start in fresh water, grow in salt water, and finish their life in fresh water. Well, I mean, before they get fish, if somebody fish them, right? Because they're not going to finish their life in the fresh water. And over here, for the next type, they are born over here in salt water, in the ocean or seas, and they grow in the fresh water. You see over here all the life. Alright, so saltwater fish or flatfish. These are all popular in commercial kitchen. Flatfish have lean, white flesh and a mild, delicate flavor. So the flatfish, they have white flesh and a mild, delicate flavor. Okay, over here, just make a little mistake, but don't worry about that. And says over here, they are all very flat, oval in shape, with both eyes on one side of the head. So what are going to be handling and storage? This is very important. Fish and shellfish are among the most perishable food you will be handling. It is essentially important to store them carefully and use them quickly. The fishy taste that turns many people away from fish is actually a sign of discomposition. For example, I know eat fish. I have to be honest, I don't like fish. I eat shellfish, but not fish. Shellfish, I'm talking about octopus and everything. We're going to see that more ahead. But I personally don't like fish, or because of that, of the fishy flavor. Fresh fish tastes and smells sweet and fresh. So, whenever you get your fish, don't put them directly. If they are fresh, try to use them as soon as possible. So we're going to be seeing more ahead how many days or how long they can be stored in refrigerator or freezer. So over here we have a table with a checklist, sorry, for fish freshness. We have the characteristics, the fresh fish, non-fresh fish, the overall appearance, which is good appearance, clean, slim, moist, and palatable fines. And when it is not fresh, when it is not so fresh, it's dry or cloudy appearance, dry fins, and the embroils are cut in flesh. The odor or smell, fresh and mild, not of odor. And the next one, when it is not too good, it is the have strong fishy odor. So you can go over this table in your handouts. You're going to have this, and it's going to be more detailed. There you can find more details over there. But how I do it, for example, how I used to do it when I was working in restaurants to know if the fish were good, I mean fresh, it was with this, with the eyes. When a fish is clean, I mean fresh, and this is how I used to do my observations. When the fish is fresh, their eyes are clear, shiny, and bulging. So once you see the fish, the eyes are very clear and shiny, that means that the fish is fresh. But if you see the eyes of the fish is cloudy and or look whitish or stuff like that, that means that the fish is not fresh. This is how I used to do it. That is how you used to do it when I used to buy fresh fish. All right, so storing fresh fish. Whenever you're going to be storing fresh fish, there's an objective why you want to do it. You're not going to be storing fish just because you want to store it or because you want to eat it next week or next 2 weeks. So the objective of storing fresh fish are four objectives. The first one is to maintain temperature of 29 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which are equals to 220 degrees Celsius, to keep the fish moist. So especially if the fish is a lean fish, you don't want the fish afterward to be dry. You want the fish to keep moist. Number three, very important, to prevent fish odors and flavors from spreading to other foods. For example, let's say you have fresh fish in your refrigerator and you have cooked chicken. You don't want the chicken to be smelling and tasting like fish, right? So you need to know how to do that, how to prevent those. And number four, to protect the delicate flesh from being bruised or crushed. You want to protect the flesh of the fish, especially if it is a restaurant, or if you have a deli, or let's say one Saturday you decide to do fried fish or grilled fish for sale. So what are the methods of storing fish? There are two main methods. The first one is on crushed ice, and the second was in refrigerated box at 29 to 30 degrees to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the same as -2 to 0 degrees Celsius. So the first one, this is the one that everybody like to do. There's a TV show known as Wikituna. I don't know if you heard about that TV show before. That is a well, the program is mainly about people who go to fish tunas, bluefin tunas, and then compete between them, who fish the biggest one, who catch the biggest one, who sell it the more expensive, who make the most money in the season, and so on. So why I'm mentioning this to you is because whenever they catch the fish, they use this method on crushed ice. So how you do that? First of all, you need to get a pan to allow the drainage of melted ice. For example, if you put a container with fish and ice in the refrigerator, you don't want all those water from the ice melting to drop over your food, right? And very important, remember this. Whenever you're going to be storing fish on ice or raw food, remember I told you from the beginning, I think it was lesson 2, that you never store raw food on the top of your refrigerator and cook food in the bottom. You always store all your raw food on the last compartment of your refrigerator or in the bottom. It doesn't matter if it is fish, if it is lobster, if it is shellfish, if it is pork, beef, poultry, anything whatsoever, any type of food which is raw, you never put it in the top of your refrigerator. You always put it way in the bottom. And of course, over here you're going recommend it to use a pan to allow the drainage of melted ice. Important to change the ice daily. Don't use that ice every day. You have to change your ice daily because the ice is going to absorb that flavor as well, and then your fish is going to start to taste fishy. Cover the container or store it in separated box away from other foods. Very important. Very important, especially if it is cooked food. Your cooked foods always go to the top and your raw foods always go in the bottom. And very important, you always remove the viscera, or what we call, everybody call it, the guts from the fish, because that's going, if you leave them with all the guts in your refrigerator, believe me, your fish is going to spoil quickly. It's going to spoil quickly. So as you get your fish, you remove all the guts. The scales, some people like to move the scales, other people like to keep it with scales. So that is up to you. This is up to you. But in my personal opinion, I prefer to leave in my personal taste. I mean, I prefer to leave the scales. I mean, in my house, I prefer to leave the scales because the scales are going to help to preserve the freshness of the fish. And whenever I'm ready to eat it, I just scale it, remove all the scales and everything. But in restaurant, I like to move the scale because I don't have time to be scaling fish, removing scaling. For example, if you ask me for a fried fish, I will not be, and half of the orders, I will not have time to go outside and scale all the fish. So that's up to you. So, but it is important for you to remove all the guts from the fish as quickly as possible. Whole or drowned fish are not wrapped. You never wrap any fish. Cod fish, for example, fillet, steak, or portions. And you see it over here. I put steaks over here. I put steak over here. So you can cut the fish into fillet, steak, or portion. Should be wrapped or left in original moisture-proof wrap. So if you are going to be doing a whole fish, you are not going to be wrapping them. Of course, you're going to put them in a in Ziploc or something, but you're not going to wrap them. Now, if you are dealing with fish fillet, with steaks or portions of the fish, of course, they should be wrapped or they should be left in their moisture-proof wrap. For example, if you buy the processed fish, for example, you see that fish fillet, which is white, which is have a white color, very clear. They come in a bag, and they're already vacuum sealed. Not all of them, but some of them are vacuum sealed. Not, if you are not going to use them immediately, just left them there. Do not remove them from there. And the second one we choose in the refrigerator box has 20 to 29 degrees. So if you don't have any crush oil, ice storage is not available or practice, wrap all fish or leave them in the original moisture proof wrap. So they are the two main ones. But it varies, very important for you to remove the guts from the fish. As you catch them, remove them. Now, the storage time. Fresh fish may be stored 1 or 2 days. If it must be kept longer, you may wrap and freeze it immediately, or to cook and then refrigerate it for later use in recipes that call for cooked fish. Check storage fish for freshness just before you use it. So before you eat a fish which is cooked or raw, always check it that it is fresh, that it is good, that it is eatable. Because if you come and you eat a fish that it is not good, that it is not eatable, which is not fresh, believe me, you are going to get very sick, very sick. Even it was fresh when you receive it, it may not be fresh after a few days in storage. So, for example, if there's a man comes over here in the your hometown or village or city where you live and start and selling fish, the fish may be the catch of the day, meaning that he fish it that day and then he just come and sell it. And the fish may be fresh, but doesn't mean that it's going to be fresh when you and remove it from storage. Everything depends on how you're going to be storing your fish. So over here, the fresh fish may be kept 1 or 2 days. That is, when I say 1 or 2 days, I am referring myself to keep it in a refrigerator. Remember that I told you in our second lesson that modern refrigerator come with the temperature already set to don't exceed 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the limit of the safe area in storage. So it can keep 1 or 2 days. Now, if for example, let's say you buy 5 pounds of fish to have for the rest of the week, if you know that daily you're going to be eating 1 or 2 fish, you just take out that and put it in the refrigerator. The rest, I recommend you not to wrap everything together. You gotta get your fish, if it is fish fillet or whole fish, put it in a bag or wrap them and put them separate in different bag. Don't put 1 or 2 fish in one bag, because if you are going to be eating only 1 fish per day and you have 2 fish in a bag, of course that means that you need to defrost 2 of them fish, because if you put them in the freezer and both of them get froze and the fish get froze, of course 2 of them are going to be stick. But if you don't want to eat the 2 fish, only want to eat one, you have to defrost both of them and then you have to freeze the next one again. So it is the best thing you can do to put your fish separately in separate bags. Use one bag for 1 fish or one bag for 1 fish fillet or steak or whatsoever. Now, if you have a big family and you know that you're going to be eating 2 or 3 fish for lunch or for dinner, of course you can put the 2 or 3 of them together and then you can just defrost them in the correct way, which is they putting them in the refrigerator and make the refrigerator defrost them slowly and safely. But in to be in the safest way, always put your fish in one bag per item. What I do over here, I'm not only for fish. I mean, when I buy a whole chicken and I cut my whole chicken and I portion them, I buy the 1 pound and the 3 pound plastic bag, the white one they use in the store, and I put one maybe one leg and tie in one bag, or one leg in one bag, and then one breast and wings and so on in separate bags. And I just put everything in one whole bag and put them in the refrigerator. And why I put everything in one whole bag, because I know that this chicken was caught in such day, and I put the date. I label it, put the date, and I know this. So for example, if I only want to eat a chicken leg, I just open the bag and I just remove a whole one chicken leg and the rest they freeze. So you can do the same thing. If you are not going to eat the fish immediately, try to put to do the proper storage. Alright, so the next item is frozen fish. Frozen seafood products account for more of the fish served today than do fresh. So a lot of frozen fish are served today nowadays. If it were not for the wide availability of frozen seafood products, commercial kitchen will serve much less fish than they do. So, for example, let's say you go to a restaurant in the United States and they want salmon. Oh, but they don't have salmon over there, so they bring the salmon from Alaska. So, because of the frozen techniques they have nowadays, that is why some kitchens are able to serve fish. For example, here in Belize, we don't have bluefin tuna, or how you call the next fish, the salmon. You don't have over here, but you can find tuna and salmon in some restaurant in Belize. And the reason why you can find it, because of frozen fish or frozen seafood products. which are imported from abroad, from maybe from Alaska or United States or Japan or other countries. So what you need to do whenever you're going to be dealing with frozen products or frozen fish, first thing you need to do is checking for the quality. So frozen products should be frozen, not tough or defrost when received. If the fish is going to be frozen, they need to be frozen when they reach to your restaurant or to your house. Now if they say, if somebody tell you we have frozen fish and when you receive it it's already defrost, that means that it's not safe to eat. Never receive any fish that you know that come from outside the country, and whenever you receive it, you go to the store, you find it, it's already defrost. That is not safe to eat. Look for freshness, sweet odors or not at all. Strong fishy odor means poor handling. So if you take a fish and you smell it and it doesn't smell bad, you smell okay, everything, that means that the fish is okay. Now if you smell that the fish got a strong fishy odor, that means this is poor, it is not safe to eat. Items should be well wrapped, not freezer burnt. Now I remember one time I went to buy and I ordered for a box of processed fish because they asked me for that. So when I received the product, I check everything, the product and everything. You see, it seemed good. It seemed good. And I don't say no. It was, everything was frozen and everything. But when I was taking everything out from the box and I was putting everything on and in my freezer and what I was going to be using for my daily activities, I found one which I find one fish which was the wrap was already bust, and when I opened it, the fish was looking like foam plate. That's the same foam plate the Chinese used to give you fried chicken. That was the texture of the fish, and I say, what is this? And I take it, and I say, oh my god, I don't know why I buy this thing. I was sorry to buy it, but I already spent the money, and so I had to use it. But that doesn't mean that all of them were all the fish, all the product were frozen. They told me it was frozen fish, and I get frozen fish. But the wrap, one of the wrap was already embossed, and the fish was what is known as freezer burnt, and the texture was like foam plate. So after that day, I never again buy any processed fish. So some frozen fish is glazed with a thin layer of ice to prevent drying. The fish I bought, they used to have that. The same fish I was telling you right now, the experience, it had that, the layer of ice. Check for shiny surface to make sure glaze is not melted off or evaporated. You need to check that the shiny or the glaze that the fish have is not melted and then frozen or evaporated. It need to be, if it was frozen from day one, it need to be kept frozen. No frozen then why then frozen day one, sorry, and the frozen day two, and then frozen day three, and so on. It need to kept frozen. And the storage, very important, store it at 0 degrees or colder, which is minus 18 degrees Celsius. You can be stored at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Keep well wrapped to prevent freezer burn. This is very important, freezer burn. Maximum storage time: fat fish 2 months, lean fish 6 months. Rotate stock first in, first out, which is known as FIFO. First in, first out. First in, first out. What that means, first in, first out, FIFO, means that if let's say that last week you buy 15 pack of frozen fish. All right, so now we are ready for the, you sell them in your restaurant and everything, and then you notice you only have 5 more packs of frozen fish or fish fillet, which is frozen. And then you call the company and tell them, you know what, I need one more box of frozen fish. And then they bring you. You are not going to put those fresh fish in front. You are going to put in your storage in front. You have to put them way in the back and try to use what you buy first, the oldest one. So that is what you call FIFO. And this is not only include for fish. That includes vegetables, that includes poultry, that includes meat, that includes pork, everything. For example, when I buy my vegetables, when I buy my vegetables, I usually buy vegetables every 3 or 4 days. So I stack my refrigerator, everything. When I buy my new vegetables, I take out my every vegetable I have in my refrigerator. I take all of them out. I wash all my vegetables, my tomato, potatoes, cilantro, everything I need to wash. I properly wash them and make them dry, air dry. And then I store them in, I take out the whole container where I store my vegetables in my refrigerator. And now I have some vegetables which are not stored in the refrigerator, but that's something else. We're going to be seeing that in the next lesson. But what I mean, I take everything from my refrigerator. I have my old vegetables. I wash my container where I put my refrigerator, dry it, put it back, and then I put my new vegetable first, and then my old vegetable I put it in the top. So when I open, I use my old vegetable. So that is what is known as FIFO, first in, first out. I'm going to be finding this information at I okay, shellfish. Now we're going almost finished with this one. What are shellfish? Shellfish are distinguished from finfish by either harder outer shells and their lack of backbone or internal skeleton. And over here I have some experience. I mean some examples. We have crab, we have crayfish, we have lobster. Over here we have the crab, lobster, rock lobster, crabs, crayfish, langoustine, oyster, clams, shrimp. Um, these are known. What are the name of this? I forget the name of this. This are the name of this is. I can't remember their names. And you have over here. You have the all the they're very. I forget their names. But okay, this is what are known as the fish, the shellfish you have over here. So this one are going to be very tricky. We're going to discuss about these ones. These two type they look similar, but they are different. So we're going to start with this lesson or this part of the lesson with shellfish. So what are shellfish? There are two classifications of shellfish. The first one are mollusk, are soft sea animals that fall into three major categories: bivalves, which have a pair of high shells such as clams and oysters. So they are the bivalves. Univalves, which have a single shell such as almond or conch. So over here that's a univalves. Univalves, sorry, conch. Cephalopods, such as octopods, squids, and cuttlefish. So they are the three major categories of mollusk. So from the scientist point of view, there are other mollusks as well, but they do not concern with us here. So I'm not going to get too much involved in this thing. I just want you to get to know the major one we have here in our country, Belize. And you can see over here. Scallops, yeah, scallops. That was the one I was remembering right now, scallops. And I know every time I forget the name and every time I compare with this scallop potato, but right now I even forget the name of scallops. So over here you see we have the clam which is bivalves, the snail. It's not the snail that you see over here. And an example of snail that we have here in Belize are what they call the jutes. I'm pretty sure you know that over here or heard about that before, right? The jutes, there are the snails over here, the squid, oyster, scallops, and octopus. So the three major categories of mollusks are bivalves, the univalves, and the cephalopods. They're the three major categories of shellfish. Okay, so crustaceans are animals with segment shell and joint legs. And what are those? An example are over here are spiny lobster, scampi, crayfish, crabs, and shrimp. This is what are known as the crustaceans, or what they call it in Spanish, crustáceos. And I'm pretty sure you heard that word before in SpongeBob, right? The crustáceo azul. That I think that is the name of the restaurant where he works. Well, all right. So let's start with this lesson. So remember, there are two classifications of shellfish. The first one is the mollusk, and the second one is the crustaceans. All right, and over here we see the example. So the first one, mollusk. The most important mollusks in commercial kitchen, are oysters. You can see it over here. Clams. See it over here, the picture. Mussels. You can see it over here. They are nice. Oh, they're very delicious. I love them. Well, actually, I like three of them. The oyster, I like them raw. It's an appetizer. And scallops. Over here, these are good, but sometimes it tastes kind of fishy. Flavor is very strong. Or well, the first time I tasted it, have like a fishy taste, maybe because it wasn't really handled properly. So, but they're still very delicious. Squid, I love them. Squid, fried squid with sauce, tartar sauce. They're really delicious. Squid, fried squid, very nice. The next one of my favorite, octopus. I love octopus. They're very good. I love them in ceviche. I like them grilled. I love them. They are very delicious. Alright, so we're going to start with this one. The cephalopods. What are the cephalopods? Cephalopods are classified as mollusks even though they have no external shells. The term cephalopod means hard foot, referring to the fact that these animals have tentacles or legs attached to the heads and surrounding the mouth. The most important cephalopods in food service are squid and octopus. The three types, the third type, cuttlefish is similar to squid, but it usually seen only in limited markets. Okay, so the squid. Squid are usually referred on the menu by their Italian name calamari. They are soft-bodied animals, somewhat resembling octopus, but they have 10 tentacles, two of them longer than the others. Squid must be skinned and take out of course, the guts as well. And over here, the break, the hand, the beak, and the internal plastic-like gill are discarded. The hollow body and tentacles are eaten. Whatever chewed squid are cut up and either fried quickly or simmer about 45 minutes in seasoned liquid sauce. Alright, so this is what I was telling you. Fried calamari. This is very nice. This is the same thing as the squid, like the Squidward from SpongeBob. But these are the calamari. This come from this part over here, from the head of the calamari. So over here you have this. All right, so the octopus, one of my favorite. Love octopus, very delicious. So the octopus means 8 feet. So the octopus comes in different sizes. It can be from ounces to many pounds, and of course, octopus is chewy. It got a firm texture. But if an octopus is very big, it becomes very tough, like chewy, like rubber to eat. Yeah, so it's not really consider eating octopus too big. So octopus need to be to a certain time. So the octopus can be eaten can be tendered by mechanical tenderizer, or they can be cooked slowly. Unlike squid, octopus are cleaned by cutting off their tentacles, discarding their head and their beak, and the eviscerating the body cavity. And of course, you need to pull off the skin of the body, punch, and tentacles. Now, something important when it comes to cooking octopus, if you overcook octopus, is going to start to peel off, and the texture and the presentation is not going to be that good. And you also, if octopus is overcooked, is going to be kind of chewy. Also, which is also important when it comes to cooking octopus, whenever you're going to be pouring the octopus in the hot water, or the stocking whatsoever going to be cooking it for tenderizing, you need to know the proper way to do it. But we're going to be seeing that in our next lesson in section B of this, which is going to be cooking shellfish and fish. So this is over here, everybody. I'm pretty sure everybody know what is an octopus, so I don't really have to be describing over here. Next one over here, we have a plate of octopus. You can see that one look very delicious, right? Love grilled octopus. Now the next one, crustacean. The most important crustacean in commercial kitchen are lobster. You can see it over here. Rock lobster or langoustine. This one. And this one that I was telling you, going to be covering this one. This is very tricky because here in Belize, we don't really have lobster. We over here, we don't have lobsters in Belize. We have what is known as the rock lobster. That's this one over here. This one and this one are different. You can see over here, the one have claws. You can see it over here, and this one doesn't. So the one we have over here in Belize, what you eat as lobster tail, is actually rock lobster. Of course, they are in the same family, but the flavor is far much different than the real lobster. So this is our lobster, and this is our rock lobster. This is the one we have over here in Belize. I was making some researches on this type of the lobster we have here in Belize, and I don't really remember if I included over here. But I will be getting information for you, and of course I'm going to be sharing that information with you. The next one is shrimp. That's it over here. Shrimp. Shrimp ceviche there. Shrimp ceviches are very good, very delicious. Crab. That's one of my favorite two crabs. I love crab, very delicious. So the lobster. So the characteristic of lobster are the northern lobster are the most prized of all shellfish. It has a large flexible tail, 4 pairs of legs, and 2 large claws. Its shell is dark green or bluish green, but turns red when cooked, and that is because it goes through a chemical change in their pigments when it is exposed to heat. That's why whenever you cook lobster or rock lobster and you put it in hot water or cold or hot oil, the color change go through a chemical reaction of pigments and change of color to red. And a lot of restaurants here in Belize, and I'm pretty sure around the world, they do that for presentation when it comes to plating their lobster. The meat from the from the tail, the claws, and the legs is eaten. It is white and sweet, with a distinctive taste. The claws meat is considered especially good. The coral, which is also known as the roux or eggs, which is dark green when raw and red when cooked, and the green tolamali or the liver in the thorax of the body portion are also eaten. So these are that is what it is eaten from the lobster. Now lobster are classified by weight. For example, what is known as the chicken is from 1 pound, the quarter 1 1/4 pounds, the select is 1.5 to 2 1/4 pounds, and the jumbo's over 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds. Lobster weighing over 20 pounds, which is equal to 90 kilograms, have been caught, but they are rare. And the yield, or what you get from the person, or the amount of meat you can get from a lobster, from 1 pound lobster, is 1/4 pound cooked meat, or 50-gram lobster yield about 125 grams of cooked meat. Alright, this is the same thing. 500 grams is equals to 1 pound. So from 1 pound of lobster, you can get 1/4 pound of cooked meat, which is 4 ounces. And or if you are talking about matrix measurement, which is 500 grams of lobster yields of about 125 grams of cooked meat. So sometimes customer request the female lobster in order to get the coral, so they should be able to tell what the difference between the female and the male, in what they are the difference. So how you can do that is by looking the pair of tiny legs under the tail. If the pair close the pair closest to the front is soft and flexible, the lobster is a female. If it is hard, the lobster is a male. So that is how the restaurant can distinguish the difference between a male and a female lobster. Honestly, I have never do this before. To be honest, in my years of experience as a chef, I never did that. Well, actually, because I don't remember cooking any whole lobster in a restaurant. Only oh yes, I remember I did whole lobster, but that was in this island, private island that I was working, that I mentioned to you way before becoming a teacher. But in the past restaurant I used to work, it was only lobster tail. That was anything. So apart from that, I don't remember in that restaurant that I was working at island, no customer asked me for female lobster. So over here you can see the picture of the lobster. Okay, the market farm. How you can find lobster? Lobster can be found in two major ways when it comes to market farm. You can find them alive, or you can find them cooked, fresh, or frozen. So how do you check for freshness when it comes lobster? One, the live lobster must be alive when cooked, and this is indicated by the movement of their leg, by their claw, or by their tail. They are usually moving it. And if you see videos of people dealing with lobster, you can see that the lobster, they have like a little rubber band in their claws, so like that they don't hook no one with that, because they very painful. Like one time I get claw with one with a crab, and believe it, very painful. If the lobster is dead when cooked, the meat will fall apart. If it is alive, the meat will be firm and the tail will spring back when straightened. So what it means that if the lobster is dead when it is cooked, it can easily fall apart. So that's why majority of restaurants, well, here in Belize we only have lobster tails, so we don't really deal too much with that. But in other restaurants, when they ask for lobster, they take out the lobster and they put it directly into boiling water, and they cover it. They cook the lobster alive. Honestly, I think it's very painful, but and very sad. But I don't think they consider that as animal abuse. But all right, I just left that in one side. Slippers, that means that dying lobster should be cooked immediately, so the meat will still be unstable. So if the lobster is, if the lobster is outside the water for a long time, and this about is dying, that is considered as slippers, and it should be cooked immediately. Cooked lobster meat, fresh or touch, should smell fresh and sweet. So if you buy the cooked lobster meat. It should if it even if it is fresh or raw, it should smell fresh and sweet. So the handling, when it comes to handling, live lobster are either cooked live or cut up before cooking. As for broiling or sauteing, live lobster are plugged head first into boiling water so to kill them instantly. So if you get the lobster and you put them in their head first, they're going to die instantly. And they are simmered for 5 to 6 minutes per pound, or which is equal to 500 grams. If it is served whole, they are strained well and they're drained well and split in half, and the claws are cracked. So the splitting and cutting of the lobster is necessary for certain preparation. And of course that's going to be for seasoning. If you're going to be doing like a grilled lobster, of course they have to cut it, put it salt, black pepper, olive oil, or any type of flavored oil, and then just going to be grilled. The thorax section contains three parts you should recognize, which is the stomach or the sac located just behind the eyes. It is often sandy and should be discarded. You should not eat that. But in some restaurants, as I mentioned to you, they serve whole lobster, and sometimes they serve it whole, and sometimes they serve it whole, which is cut in half. But that is just for presentation. The tamale or liver is pale green. It is eaten plain or removed, mashed, and added to sauce and accompany the lobster. So that is the tamale or the liver, and that is eaten. The coral or the raw, or also it's red when cooked. This is the coral. The raw is the egg. Remember the coral and or the raw is the lobster egg, and this only the female have it. It's red when cooked and dark green when raw. It is present only in females. Like the tamale, it is considered a delicacy. The intestinal vein must be removed from the split lobster if it is contain dark material, but it is often left in if it is clear. So if you open the lobster and you say the intestine, it look like black like the shrimp. It is removed, but if it is clear, you just left it there, and of course you can eat it. All right, so how are you going to be storing your lobster? Live lobster can be kept in two ways: packed in a moist seaweed or in a moist heavy paper kept in a cool place. And number two, in a salt water or in salt water. Special lobster tank are used in restaurant or display, and so customer can select their own lobster. Air must be bubbling through the water to keep the lobster alive. I don't think we have that here in Belize. I know that in Turtlein. I have never seen it. I heard about that. I have never seen, to be honest. They say that they have a pool where they have fish, and from there the customer, sorry, they can come and they can select their fish, and they can and their fish that moment and kill and cook. But lobster, I don't know about lobster, and I have never seen one of that here in Belize, or at least I never saw them in the restaurants and hotels I used to work. But I see them already in TV, in movies and other stuff, that they have live lobster within tanks, and customer can just come and select their lobster and everything. Point number two, cooked lobster meat must be covered and refrigerated at 30 degrees to 34 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equals to 1 to 1 degree Celsius. It is very perishable and should be used in 1 or 2 days. So the lobster meat can get perished very easy. It can only be used, I mean, when it is talking about cooked lobster meat. Alright, cooking lobster. Lobster meat become tough if cooked at too high temperature or for too long. Boiling too long will also make the meat dry. Whole lobster is usually cooked by dropping into boiling water and then simmer 5 to 6 minutes per pound or 500 grams. For a jumbo lobster, reduce the cooking time slightly, not too much. You're going to reduce the cooking time, but not too much. Whole or cut up lobster can be cooked by simmering into water or cored bouillons, simmering in a sauce or soup, sauteing, baking, or broiling. And over here we have a diagram of a lobster and the label of their body parts. All right, so the rock lobster, the famous rock lobster. The one you have here in Belize, the characteristic rock lobsters are also known as spiny lobster or langoustine. Are they are the warm water relative of northern lobster, but have no claws. That's the one you have over here in Belize. Only the tail are marketed sold out as lobster tail, as I was mentioning to you on earlier. Only the lobster tail are marketed sold as lobster tail. Sorry. The flesh of the rock lobster tail is similar to the to that of the northern and marine lobster, but it is drier and cooler and with less flavor. Rock lobster tail weigh 2 to 12 ounces, 60 to 240 grams. Langoustine or langostinos are smaller relative of the rock lobster. These small shellfish are often marketed as rock shrimps. When out of the shell, they look like shrimp, but their flavor is milder and sweeter than shrimp. Scampi, which is plural from scampo, refers not to the shrimp but to a variety of langoustine from the Italian waters. So there's a famous plate food which is known as shrimp scampi. So a lot of the scampi is often used incorrectly for large shrimp broiled with butter and garlic. So um to make the correct plate, which is known as shrimp scampiers, they need to use the correct type of um, langoustine. And as you can see over here, this is langoustine are from the Italian water. But over here in Belize, we don't got too much that, so we only use the regular low shrimp, and we call them shrimp scampi when you make a sauce with butter and garlic. The market farm nearly all rock lobster tails are sold IQF, which stands for individually quick frozen. Handling cooking rock lobster are handled and cooked much like northern lobster. The most common cooking methods are steaming, simmering, and broiling. My favorite is grilling. I love grilled lobster. Tails to be broiled will be moist if poached 5 minutes before broiling. Splitting and broiling. Tail steam or simmer whole should have the shell split before serving as a convenience to the customers. So the tail should also be steamed or shrimp. Characteristic of shrimp are small crustaceans that looks like somewhat like tiny class lobster. Only the tail is marked and eaten as a roll. So only the tail, but I have already seen some places that serve in Mexico. I thought and they serve the whole shrimp in the shell as well. Shrimp comes in a variety depending on where they are caught, but particularly very variety is usually of little importance to the cook. Now this part is very important. Shrimp are classified by count per pound. The higher the count, the smaller the shrimp. For example, 1620 means 16 to 20 shrimps per pound. Classification system differ by market. That is, in different market, a given size shrimp may have different names. For example, in Belize, we have the shrimp farm, or you can buy the shrimp in boxes that I will have number. First, I will be honest. First, I used to think that this number, they were the size of the shrimp. So I usually used to get the big one for the have 24, 24, 26, 28, 30, and I can't remember what. But I used to buy, when I used to buy the shrimp, I used to select the one that have the highest number. Until I learned that that means that if they're if you buy the shrimp, which let's say there is a shrimp that says 30 to 36, I mean 30 to 34, that means that you're going to be buying the pack, that meaning that 30 to 36 shrimps are going to make 1 pound of shrimp, meaning that the shrimp are going to be looking like fetus or 40, 36. Now if you buy the ones the lower the number, for example 16 to 20, or if you buy 8 to 10 or 15 to 18, that means that the shrimp are going to be bigger. So whenever you go to buy shrimp, if you're going to buy the whole box, try to get the box which have the lowest number, the lowest count, 8 to 10 or 16 to 20, or maybe 18 to 20, or so on. Try to get the lowest number. Now continue with the reading over. Say that large shrimp are most expensive per pound, but require less work to peel and divine. Of course, large shrimp are very expensive, but contain less and require less work to peel and divine. Now the yield, 1 pound of fresh shrimps, so only the tail. In the shells, it's about 1.5. I mean, like half pound peel. So if you buy 1 pound of shrimp, which is in the shell, when you finish peeling them, you are going to be dashing away half pound of the shell, and half pound you're going to be staying only with the meat or with the flesh. Cooked shrimp, which is 500-gram healed, 250-gram peeled. To give it the sentence, this is just in the metric system. The term the term prawns is sometimes used as large shrimp, sometimes the langoustine, sometimes for langoustine, sorry. Used for the variety used for the term variety from region to regions. So that is what shrimp means. Now the market farm green shrimp are raw shrimps in the shell. So when they say green shrimp, don't think you're going to be getting green shrimp. Green shrimp is just a term, and they refer to shrimp in the shell. Fresh, not widely available except near sources or supply. Frozen in 5 pounds blocks. You can see over here. And also you need to check this part when you're going to buy. The PD means peel and divide, and usually the IQF, and PDC means the peel, divide, and cook. I prefer, in my case, I think I would prefer this one, the PD. The note over here says the IQF shrimp are usually glazed. I remember that glaze is a protective layer of water added to the surface of the frozen food. This amount of glaze depends on the temperature of both the product and the water, the surface area of the product, and the glaze time. So that's why whenever you go to the store and you buy shrimp and you take it out frozen, you're going to see that the pack contains water, and that is to preserve the freshness of the shrimp. That is known as a. Now checking for freshness. Frozen shrimp should be solid frozen when received. Glazed shrimp should be shiny with no frizz or burn. Ice shrimp should smell fresh and sweet. A strong fishy or iodine smell indicate age or spoilage. The storage, like other frozen fish, shrimp should be kept frozen at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower until ready to use. Defrost in refrigerator, allowing sufficient slack time. Fresh or tough or defrost shrimp in shell are stored on crushed ice like whole fish. Peeled shrimp is lose soluble nutrients and flavor when stored on wrap on ice. They should be wrapped before placing on ice or cover and simply refrigerate. So if you're going to be storing peeled shrimp, try to cover them or wrap them and put them in a refrigerator. Do not put them raw or peel shrimp just like that in ice, because they're going to be losing their nutrients. Handling shrimp served hot must normally be peeled and divined before cooking, and this you can find this information in your handouts. You can continue reading that in your handouts. Cooking shrimp, like most shellfish, shrimp become tough and rubbery when cooked to high heat and to high heat to high okay, so shrimp becomes rubbery and tough when it is cooked high temperature. Shrimp can be cooked by simmering, deep frying, satay, broiled, or baking. And you over here have a picture of a shrimp. The next one, the crabs. There are six kinds of crab in commercial kitchen. The Alaskan king crab, the Alaskan snow crab, the longest crab, the blue crab, the softshell crab, the stone crab. And this information you can find it in your handout. And the market farm, you can find live crabs. Live crabs taste best when fresh, but very few, except for soft shelf crab, are purchased live because of the labor required to pick the meat. An average blue crab yields less than 1 ounce of meat cooked frozen in the shell. King crabs legs whole and split. Snow and stone crab class, soft crabs whole, cooked frozen meat, all varieties. So these are the market. So you can find live, but this is rarely. You can find cook crabs and cook frozen meat. That are the main. This is the point. You can read this information in your handout as well. Fresh and storage live crabs should be kept alive until cooked. They're picked in they're packed in damp seaweed and kept well. Frozen crab meat should be treated like other frozen fish. It is very perishable when defrosted. And over here we have a picture of a crab. Okay, so how are you going to be handling and cooking them? The hard shell crab are picked of their meat after cooking. Their procedure are simmer 10 to 15 minutes in salt water and then quickly cool in ice water. They break off the point shell on their sides. Remove the top shell. Remove and discard the spiny gills and the stomach. Pick out the body meats. Crack the legs and the claws with a mallet or the back of a heavy knife to pick out the meat. And the soft shell meat with a knife or a shader. Leave the point outside the corners to the top shell and pull off the spiny gills. Cut off the spawn. Drag the crab into flour in flour for sauteing and bread or butter for deep frying. And frozen crab meat, and of course, as I mentioned to you, you can check this information in your handouts. And over here we have a plate over here with a conch. It's a tropical marine mollusk found throughout the water of the Bahamas and of course here in Belize. There are many kinds of conchs around the world, but the queen conch is the most commonly in the region. The queen conch is soft-bodied, edible sea snail with an external spiral-shaped shell with a glossary pink or orange interior. In the market for you can find it live, fresh meat, frozen, cooked meat, and this cooked meat we can consider confiters. That checking for frozen conch should be to have a nice like pink color. If it is gray or brown, steer clear. Like most seafood, the best indicator is smell. If it smells like salty, like a walk near the beach, it is fine. The storage keep the I put oyster over here. I mean conch at 0 degrees. I make a mistake over here. I put oyster instead of writing conch. Keep the conch at a freezer at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or cooler until ready to use. Time refrigerated 24 hours or more depending on the size of the container or the animal. And this part you can also read it in your handouts. Cooking tea, farm conch, cook more quickly and then wild. So you can read this information there. And over here we have a picture of the queen conch. Very delicious too. The crayfish or crawfish is fresh relative water to the lobster. Not long ago, they were used almost exclusively in Southern cuisine and in French restaurants. I have never seen one of those, to be honest. In my life, I have never seen one of them. I heard they have here in Belize in rivers, but I have never seen. So over here, The crayfish are marketed live or frozen, peel tails, meat or whole. So this is an example over here of a crayfish. To be honest, I have never seen one of that in my life. Maybe I cook it and I never knew, but I have never seen one of them. So this is a crayfish. And the last part, several other seafood items plays a role in food service kitchen. They're classified with fish, even though some of them spend part of all their life on land, like frog and snails. Snails or escargots are popular hors d'oeuvres when baked in their shell with a highly seasoned butter. Freshness require long, slow cooking before being baked with escargot butter. Both canned snails are fully cooked and ready to prepare. So the snails. And over here we have an example of a snail. What are the snails? So please, very important. Just I would really recommend you to eat any type of snail because there are some snail that can contain some type of bacteria and those bacteria attack your brain. So you really need to know what type of snail you are going to be eating. An example are this one. I am pretty sure you know this one. We call those over here the hutes. I think they call them in English. I think they call them the river snail or sweet snail or black snail, black river snail, something like I can't really remember what's the name of those. But here they call him hutes, and these are eatable. These one are eatable, and of course you are not want to take the small ones. You want to use the big ones. Frog legs are often compared to chicken in taste and texture, but then so are a lot of things. Only the hind legs are used, or what is known in Spanish as anclas de ranas. Anclas de ranas. And they are sold in pairs. They are maybe sauté, deep fried, or poached and served with a sauce. And over here you can see how they look. The frog legs, and this is how they look when they are cooked. To be honest, I remember we cooked those when I was in culinary school, but I never ate it. And we were required to taste what we eat, and when the teacher asked me if I taste it, I tell him yes, but to be honest, I never eat it. It was kind of weird for me to eat those. So this part over here say the surimi. And what are the surimi? Over here you can find the example of the surimi. It's a processed seafood product made from grinding leans, inexpensive white fish combined with flavoring and forming into a various shape. The most popular shape are shredded crabs and crab leg segments are these ones over here. These are originally from Japan. Surimi. They're originally from Japan. They make those in Japan. They're originally from there, but we have found acceptance in North America and over here in Belize. I remember I used to work in a place where they used to buy these crab legs. And I taste them already. They taste kind of good. They taste like, I mean, they don't taste like originally crab legs, but they have their flavor and their texture. So we reached to the end of lesson 16 part A. So class, thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to be uploading your assignment on Teams, and you can find them in the assignment session or forms. I will be sending you the link through the through WhatsApp group, or the of course we're going to be placing everything on Teams. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to call me, message me, and WhatsApp me, and I will gladly answer your questions. And thank you very much once again for your class to watching this, and for other people who watch this lesson as well. Hope you find it interesting, you learn something. And please, as I mentioned it, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.